I'd like to say right at the top that I'd like to run this session on something akin to the Chatham House rule. I mean, clearly you can see who's going to be saying what, but I don't want you to take any of it as, if you like, the official policy line of the companies and organisations that we work for, because we've had some quite difficult things in the past where somebody said something and then 3 months later somebody said, oh, well, it's your policy to do this and that. So I hope that will help us to go across the whole breadth of our expertise. Now I'm going to reach into my pocket, open my wallet and take something out. This is quite rare, so to make the best of it. It's not one of the 4 transport cards I've got in here. It's my personal MasterCard EMV card. Now if I could see the last 6 transactions on here, what would they look like? Well, we've got Pret, the well-known sandwich shop, soup and beetroot crisps, Wetherspoons, beer, Wetherspoons, more beer, Wetherspoons, even more beer. Then we've got Boots for some headache pills, and then we've got London Underground for the trip to my daughter's flat. So here you've got 3 perfectly good private sector organisations, but the transport provider is a public sector one. And the availability, the possibility of using this on local public transport is quite small. Which brings us to the question we're going to address with the panel, which is essentially, can you deliver smart integrated ticketing without local bus franchising? And the 4 people I've got on my panel come from an organisation that is promoting a local bus franchise model, an organisation that has been promised through its constituent authorities a streamlined model for franchising in exchange for an elected mayor, another public authority that hasn't yet made any kind of detailed plans for franchising, and a bus operator who operates in most of the major urban areas of Britain. So can I ask them to introduce themselves and say a little bit about the topic on the card, starting at the far end, please.
I need one of these things. Is this on? Hello?
I think you just need to speak. They'll turn you up.
I'll just speak, you can turn me off. That's
yep.
Yeah. Or you can turn me off, whichever you prefer. I'm Bob Montgomery, Managing Director of Stagecoach UK Bus. I have another hat this year, which is Chairman of the steering group of the 5 major public transport operators who've already committed to deliver competitively priced, 100% smart, multi-operator ticketing in 9 major cities in the UK. So Stephen's question, in a sense, is going to call him my bluff. I could come back here in a year's time and I'd quite happily show you what can be done in public-private partnership in the commercial world. We don't believe that there's a need to take complete, total control of everything in order to sort out ticketing. It can be done in partnership, and that's the point I hope to make as we move through this discussion.
I'm David Bartlett. I've probably got the most unusual job title in the room. I'm HR Director and Programme Manager Smart Ticketing. Fairly unusual combination. Why am I here from an HR background? Because my business is behaviour change, and the Chicago presentation sort of demonstrated why I'm interested in it. I'm interested in 2 levels. One is this: how do you get people to go from paper to touch in, touch out? That's just technology, and that's not what this debate is about. This debate is about something else in terms of the framework of the business, of the public transport industry, to achieve a different behaviour change. And that is about getting people out of cars and onto public transport. Now, first point, technology, let's forget that. Multi-operator ticketing, what are we talking about here? 2 types. There's the convert, if you like, to public transport, who's a regular user, that's the period pass. That, I think, we're okay with. Then there's the occasional user, the pay-as-you-go product, maybe account-based solutions going forward. That's where they're aimed at. And this is where I have limitations on multi-operator ticketing that can occur within a non-regulated environment. And again, just to dissect the question a bit more, it's not about bus franchising, it's about whether or not you can attract people to use public transport more by discounting the product the more they use it in an environment where there is en route competition. And my view is that that's just illogical and can't happen.
Thanks very much. John Lamont, I'm Chief Executive of Transport for Greater Manchester. I also happen to be Chair of the Passenger Transport Executive Group for the 6 metropolitan authorities, and also the Lead Officer for Transport for the North. And it's one of the issues that we're dealing with as well, about how we get more people onto public transport. Where we're coming from in Greater Manchester is that as part of the Greater Manchester Agreement with government, we've been told that we can pursue bus franchising, but the powers that go with that, in a similar way to London, need to be devolved to one accountable individual who will be an elected mayor. What we're talking about, in a similar way to Dave really, is how can we achieve economic growth across Greater Manchester in the best way. To a certain extent, I think I'd agree with Bob on a lot of things he says, because actually we want more people on buses, we want more people on transport generally, but what I want to do is give an integrated offer that encourages people from the moment they leave the door, and I heard John Brady talking about this before, that transport becomes easy. It's an easy solution, and integrated ticketing is part of that, and that's what we're about.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Perry, Head of Smarter Travel at Centro. So the answer to the question, can integrated smart ticketing be delivered without franchising? I would say the answer is yes, because actually in the West Midlands we've started to deliver that. We have got, through partnership, a scheme where we've got just under 10,000 people at the moment using a multi-bus operator season ticket that's wholly available on Smart, so no paper counterparts. And they're making, well, since the 1st of August, they've made just under 1 million journeys. So yes, it is perfectly possible. And even better than that, it's allowed us in the West Midlands to introduce some new ticket types that were recommended by the Competition Commission, where they undertook their market review a couple of years ago. There was a real challenge to introduce those more multi-operator ticketing without smart electronic recording, because the bus companies needed to make sure that actually the reimbursement was accurate. And it's only really with smart ticketing can we demonstrate that level of accuracy. So the simple answer is yes, it can be done, and will be delivering a lot more, because we don't just want to make bus multi-operator smart integrated. It is about multimodal, and we're working with the rail operators in the West Midlands, Network Rail, very much supported by DfT Smart Cities Partnership. We'll have, touch wood, I can find some, a pilot in the West Midlands by September 2015, where we will have proper, fully integrated smart ticketing, again without paper counterparts, where people can use local bus, rail and metro. And in the future, yes, we do want to see pay-as-you-go, we do want to see what things like personal mobility accounts could look like, because our other panellists have already said it's all about making sustainable transport the natural choice for passengers, and smart and integrated ticketing will help us deliver that.
Thank you, Chris. Hold the mic, because I'm going to go back along the line in a minute with a couple of specific questions, and then I'll throw the session open to the floor. I think you've all given some hints about what your customers, in your case, Bob, or your citizens, in the case of the other three of you, are looking for. But I wonder if you can home in even more about the additional value that people are expecting from smart. What do they mean by Oyster style, for instance? Because Oyster in London is something quite specific. So I wonder if you'd like to fill in a few details on that.
Okay, if I go first on that one then. I think for me, people, when they talk about Oyster-style ticketing, they're thinking about two things. Firstly, we've undertaken some research that shows that more people would make more public transport journeys in the West Midlands if they could just pick up a card, an unregistered pay-as-you-go card that sits on the mantelpiece or sits in the office desk. They can jump on the bus, not need to know what the fare is, and travel. That will generate additional marginal journeys that currently aren't undertaken, and will deliver economic benefits to our bus operator colleagues. That is a real issue in the West Midlands because our major bus operator has got an exact fare policy. I think the single's £2.10 at the moment, so it's not an easy amount of change to have in your pocket. So all of the research shows that that will generate passenger growth. Another thing that's perhaps more challenging is our research shows that when people talk about Oyster-style ticketing, they really mean capping as well, so daily and weekly capping. And that's more challenging to achieve in a deregulated environment. It's not impossible, but it is challenging and needs partnership to really go the extra mile to demonstrate something that's commercially viable for the bus companies.
John Lamont.
Thanks very much. I think when I get my Oyster card out and when I travel around London, one of the things that occurs to me is that actually I can go anywhere, do anything. I don't actually worry about what the price is. I actually don't know what the price is. But I do have confidence that somewhere, in a back office somewhere, it's sorting out the best rate for me. Now, that's not happened overnight in London. There's been a lot of teething troubles along the 10 years to get to that, but that's what I assume. But it's more than that, and I absolutely don't rely on the card now. I mean, I use contactless like everybody else. And I can see the way this is going. Oyster is kind of almost a misnomer now. It's more about the scheme. And that is obviously where it's going. But it's more than that, because in London, I assume that I can pretty much get a bus or a tube anywhere, and there is a pretty good frequency, and it's pretty connected, and I can use my journey planning tools to tell me pretty much how I can walk to wherever I need to get on a bus, get on a tube, and get to wherever I go to. If you arrived in Manchester Piccadilly right now, and then tried to work out where to get the tram, that would be a challenge, let alone trying to find Piccadilly Gardens to work out where your bus is. And if you managed that and worked out what the fare structure was, you'd be doing really, really well. That is the sort of problem that we're trying to address, which is why the main question that's asked as customer service agents at Manchester Piccadilly Station is, where do I get a taxi?
Well, all of the above. I think for us in the Grim up north, who only occasionally visit the smoke, it is about a pay-as-you-go product that is available for multimodal use with a price cap. That has proved a bridge too far up in the northeast. We have worked very well in partnership with the bus operators to develop a pay-as-you-go product, the so-called NEST SDR, or pay-as-you-go, depending whether you're a marketing person or not. But what was clear from the very outset of our discussions with the bus operators, for very good, sound business reasons, and I'm not suggesting that they should adopt any other different route, but they were not prepared to discount their normal commercial single fare for that product. And why would they? Why would Tesco's offer you double club card points if your previous shop had been at Morrison's? It's the same logic. So that for me is the price cap, pay-as-you-go, multimodal, is what Oyster is.
I think there's a bit of twisted logic in some of those explanations actually. John's example of when you arrive in Piccadilly, I have the same issue when I arrive in Paddington. On the days when I arrive in Paddington and there's no underground or something, I've got a bloody clue which bus to get. And you start trying to work out where it is, and I actually find the London system completely bewildering when it comes to using buses. It's not easy to find the information. It is if you're a Londoner, the same way as it's easy in Manchester when you're Mancunian. It's not about whether the system is controlled by the local authority or whether it's controlled by operators. It's about the quality of the technology, the quality of the information. And the thing that's significant at the moment is there's been a lot of debate historically about the ability to grow public transport markets by giving people access to all of the public transport facilities with one ticket. The thing which has held that back hasn't had anything to do whether it's local authority control or operator control. It's been to do with the technology, which is why we're quite convinced now that we have now got the key to resolving that problem. And it is in the technology. It's in smart. The thing which undermines commercial operators' confidence in being prepared to offer good value fares in a multi-operator environment is making sure you know you actually get your money back. And the advantage of smart is we can understand who's travelled where, what journey's been made where, so you can actually create a big pool of revenue, and you can divide that revenue up amongst a series of commercial operators based on use. And if you can do that, it's not a problem. So where we see things going from here is all of the things that we see in London, and I say all of them, including capping, etc., which are technologically expensive in some cases or difficult. We've actually had a long, hard look at, for example, Manchester, and think, could we do that in Manchester? And come to the conclusion that yes, that if we all want to do it, and if we all want to work together, and if we all use the technology correctly, we can do it in a way that will put more people on buses, trams and trains in places like Manchester and Newcastle, and in a way that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You keep the innovation, you keep the competitive spirit, the things which actually give people good value for money, you keep them in the system as well, and you can square that circle. Now, you can sit there and think, nah, you can't do it. Well, come back and ask me in the full question, come back and ask me in 2 years' time or 3 years' time. Big steps toward it, ask me in a year's time.
Thank you. One more question from me before we move down to the room. We've heard both what you might call card-centred and account-centred approaches today. Do you think that choice, because clearly it is a choice, has any bearing on this issue of what's the market going to do, how much do authorities need to get involved? So, put it simply, are we perfecting the scythe while on the other half of the field there's a combine harvester already working?
I think what we'll see happening is the key thing is to be able to offer people in major cities products that give them what they want. Now that might very well be a weekly pass which allows you to travel on any bus, tram, train in a city, or something that allows you simply to get on a bus, tram or train at random and know that eventually you'll be charged the best value price for it. How you get there is changing very rapidly. There's an argument that people say, well, smart cards are old-fashioned, why are you bothering? Well, they're not old-fashioned. They are still a fundamental, they've still got a fundamental purpose. Credit cards have got a purpose for all sorts of reasons, and so mobile phones. So we see people using all sorts of media to buy clear, simple products. And the key is very much the actual public transport product they buy and what access it gives them. It's not what it says on the card, it's not whether it's a card or a phone, because you can argue that, well, you could do all this on MasterCard and Visa, so why have smart cards? Well, I haven't seen a 7-year-old with a MasterCard or Visa too often, and therefore if you want to give a child the ability to travel, you'll still have to have smart cards, you'll have to have a dedicated card that the child can use. There are various things that you can do, and we see it in that environment. It's not about imitating what London has done, because what London has done is in one technological era. That's moving and it's transferring. What we need to do are offer customers in major cities products which gives them the access they want to be able to buy it in the way they want to buy it. And even that means you've got to give them a choice of retailers, a choice of options. The product is simple, but people like, you don't tell people you can only buy your bread in Tesco's, you can't choose whether you buy it in Asda and Tesco's. A tin of baked beans is the same from all of those supermarkets, but people would prefer to buy it from one or the other sometimes.
David, Bartlett.
For once, Bob, I agree with you.
For what?
It is about the product offering, it's not about the technology, and it is something that frustrates me coming into this sort of arena, is that technologies bubble up and suddenly become the panacea to all evils, and some people, when you talk to them about account-based products, I think it's the cure for cancer as well, or something like that. It has its place. I can see the value that it will add, but there is also, as Chicago ably demonstrated in the presentation I heard earlier, it is not going to be the answer for everybody. So there has to be a solution for those for whom account-based solutions are not appropriate. Look at your mobile phone. That's an account-based solution, but alongside there is a pay-as-you-go solution as well. So, need I say more? Probably not.
John.
Thanks very much. I guess, like previous speakers, I'm not too worried about the front end. I think it doesn't matter a jot. There needs to be flexibility of choice out there, because there are issues about literacy in Greater Manchester Not everyone is right up there with a mobile phone or whatever. So you've got to have sufficient in the back office to be able to make any of these solutions work. That's where it has to be. I would certainly not invest in aiming off for old technology. Absolutely do not get that at all. But I think, you know, something that's flexible. But at the end of the day, why are we going for integrated transport solutions? Because actually, it doesn't matter what sort of card or phone or whatever transport solution you've got. If the bus isn't there, you can't get on it. If the tram isn't there, you can't get on it. If they don't actually join up, if your bus leaves 10 minutes before the train has pulled in and it's a half-hour service, you are seriously irritated. The important bit is the integrated transport solution, not simply the ticketing system that sits behind it.
Anything to add, Chris?
Well, the only thing I was going to add was some of our experience, and I'm really excited about mobility accounts and new technology and innovation and where we can get to. But we can't forget that about the people we could otherwise leave behind. And Bob is right about the 7-year-old, but also we've got to think about who our current market is. Yes, we want to attract people out of cars, we want to get those people who currently don't make that sustainable travel choice. We've got to think about the existing, mainly bus users. We've got a lot of examples with our current system, our 8,378 customers, it says on my notes in Compass, that are now transferred from paper tickets to smart. And we're astounded at the number of people who every Friday buy a weekly ticket. Anyone in their right mind would not buy 10 weekly tickets 1 week after another. It's much cheaper for those people to buy a 4-weekly ticket or move on to monthly direct debit. Now, we haven't got the data yet, but we very much think that those people are living on a week-to-week basis. Either they can't afford to buy a month's ticket or 4-weekly ticket, or actually they don't know whether they're going to be in work from 1 week to the next. So, yeah, we've got to make sure that the technology and the back office systems allow for innovation, and we really promote that innovation, but we can't leave customers behind, and we can't forget about those people that will always need some sort of smart media that is not EMV or a personal mobility account or mobile phone-based solution.
I have to tell you about a man in front of me in the newsagents in Old Street last week. He pulled 3 Oyster cards out from his pocket, and of course you can't visually tell which is which. And he asked the lady at the counter to read each of the 3 cards. Each of the 3 cards had a different negative balance on it. And he chose the card with the smallest negative balance and topped it up enough to make 1 bus journey. These things do happen. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, down to you. I hope there's a mic somewhere. The hand I saw first is belonging to the man in the shirt and the gold bronze tie in the 3rd row back. Yes, here comes the mic. Please say who you are.
Arnold Cohen, Transport for London. Seeing as Bob took a little indirect swipe there at Transport for London, I would just observe that the number of times you could arrive at Paddington and tubes being unavailable, especially if you've got a choice of tubes, probably less than 1%. And if that does happen, there are plenty of bus apps where you can find out where to get the bus, when it's due, and where the buses are going. So just get that off my chest. The reason I think this debate is important is because I think in London, it's fairly clear that we put customers first when we're planning services. I occasionally go to review services in other authorities, and I went to a well-known provincial city recently where they were considering a new scheme, and there, instead of putting customers first, they asked the question, how can we keep the operators on board, and then within that, how can we please the customers?
Any reactions? Any surprise? Bob.
Just for the record, it wasn't a sideswipe at London. It's actually a sideswipe at every town and city in the world. Because you hear this all the time, how easy it is to use public transport. It's not easy to use public transport in any city if you don't live and you have to learn. And I've not found anywhere that actually those issues when you arrive at a mainline railway station and you want to go somewhere else by bus or train or tram, it's easy to find out until you've done it a couple of times. So that's the point. There's nothing personal about that. The other issue, I'd actually agree with you entirely, that an authority that starts planning a system based on how to keep the operators happy is mad.
John?
Yeah, thanks very much. I absolutely agree as well, not surprisingly. In a city region of 2.7 million people, one of the biggest problems I've got is that the road congestion is second only to London's. That's no great feat for us. What we've got is traffic building up at something like 46% over the period out to 2025, and we've got to do something about it. The air quality issues in the centre of town are a big issue. We need to do something about it. And the degree of coordination of all the modes, when we've had increases of rail travel about 5% year on year, 66% over the last 10 years, on Metrolink, which we've seen 50% rise over the last 2 years, somehow we need to bring that together. And it's the customer that I'm thinking of. It's their needs that I'm worried about. I'm accountable to them. They vote and pay our money. So, absolutely put them first and then work out what the organisational solutions are behind that.
Chris, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, just wanted to, I suppose, challenge that the putting customer first and putting the operator first, are they separate? Because actually most operators are very much about putting the customer first because they're at the heart of their business. Yes, we might have a slightly different take sometimes between what a PTE view of the customer or the operator view of the customer might be. Generally, when we sit down and have a discussion, there's very much a huge amount of commonality between us, and I don't really get why there should be a different view, or why operators would have a different view of customers as local authorities.
Okay, well, the clock is our enemy, so I'm going to close the session there. That's right, isn't it? We're due to finish about now. I can see Jeremy nodding. Business recommences at 4:10. Please thank my hard-working panellists. And thank you for your attention.